guys, welcome to welcome back to my channel. So as you all know, I recently finished university. I'm sure a lot of us are in this phase of life right now. And so I thought it would be fun today to talk about some of the things that we can expect after uni, as well as some tips that I have found helpful in my own life as to how to get through this weird phase of life. So let's get straight into the video. So first and foremost, I know it sounds really simple, but my first tip is actually to start off by trying to regularize your routine. I know for me as a student, that kind of lifestyle, I had like irregular eating habits, irregular sleeping habits. So first and foremost, I'm trying really hard to regularize my sleep routine because work life, of course, you have to get up pretty early. As against student life, you're pretty used to staying up until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., that kind of thing. So I'm trying to regularize my sleep schedule from now so that if and when I get a job, then things are a little bit easier to maneuver. My second tip is to, and it's an obvious one, find a job. So of course, coming out of uni, most of us right away do not have a job, but we also have new qualifications to get the job that we desire. So if you're not ready to work in your field right away, I would say go ahead and look for a student job, a vacation job, something in the meantime to hold you over while you continue to send out resumes and applications for jobs in the field that you've actually studied for. So my next tip is actually to find somewhere to live. I know for a lot of us, we stay on student housing or student dorm, or maybe we're just living really close to school and now it's time for us to relocate to bigger cities or different areas. So I would say that's one of the things on the list that's going to definitely come next. And of course, a lot of us, it sends shivers down our spine to think of going back home to live with our parents if this is your case and you want to kind of maintain your quote unquote adult status. What you can do is perhaps try to find apartments where student share is a thing. Like I know here in Europe, students sharing one flat is a thing, and then that makes that flat significantly cheaper or more affordable. But then that brings me to my next tip, which is to try and break some of those student habits. For a lot of us, we're used to our own space on dorm, or we're living in our single units and we get very accustomed to leaving wares in the sink, or we wash our clothes like months after they've piled up, and we keep our bathroom very specific to how we want our things. So these are some of the bad habits that we might, not to say that everyone has these habits, I don't have all these habits, so I'm just putting it out there to say if you do have these habits, these are some of the things you might want to break or try to start breaking out of, because if you're gonna live in a flat share situation, that's not gonna work. That's gonna make things very difficult. So my next step is actually a little bit more challenging because this might be a bit hard for us as students, especially coming out the gate. We're fresh graduates, but you can also use this time to start to pay off some of your debts. A lot of us have to take student loans or different things to kind of find ways to make ends meet in terms of paying for tuition and living and all the other expenses that we've incurred over the years of studying. So maybe through the summer jobs or just odd jobs, maybe selling some of the things that we don't need anymore, you can use this time to pay off some of those debts. Additionally, I would recommend that we open a graduate account, because then with these types of accounts, of course, because the graduate account interest is a little bit lower, you get a little bit more time to pay off your interest-free debts. So that would work out a little bit better, and of course give you more time to pay off whatever debts you have incurred over the years of studying. My next tip is, if you have the time, or if you're someone who doesn't like to be like without something to do for a very long period of time, you could also use this time while you're looking for a job to perhaps have an internship. So that will give you a little bit of experience while you're looking for a job, because experience is always a great thing when you're looking for a job. And if you're not ready to just delve straight into the working world right away, an internship is like a good way to kind of tip your toe in the water, so to speak, to kind of give you a little bit of an introduction. People are a little bit more patient when you're an intern, more willing to teach you things, as against when you come on as you're a graduate in whatever your field is, you're expected to know what you're doing. I mean, you're a graduate. So that's something that you could do. Another tip is, if you have the time and if you have a little bit of extra cash, to move around, then I would suggest using this time to kind of explore. Go ahead and travel, take all the trips that you wanted to take that maybe during school you just could not find the time or could not afford to do, and maybe now you have the time or now you have the means to do so because you're not putting all your money into utilities and tuition, etc., etc., etc. Maybe you don't have any student debts to pay off. That's another good way to use the time, because bear in mind, once you start working, I think generally, I know here you tend to get like 25 days of paid leave for the year. So these are precious moments, and you'll find yourself with months or several weeks of free time to just do what you want on your own time. So if you can afford to, I would say that's another good way to use this time. And these are things that you could never put a price on, obviously, because these are memories that will last forever. So my next tip is to start to do some cutbacks. So during this period, most of us, not everyone, but most of us are kind of in this phase where we're done with school, but we're not quite sure when and how we're able to start working, even though we're applying for jobs. We're still living in whatever apartments or student housing, so of course we still have expenses, but you're during this weird period where you might not necessarily have an income. So this is a great time to start cutting back on some of the things that maybe you used to splurge on that you don't necessarily need. I'm talking, for us girls, maybe clothes, handbags, shoes, maybe if every day you go out to get that extra cup of coffee, or you always eat out, you're always drinking out. I'm not saying you can't do these things, but try to think forward in terms of think ahead. So you don't want to be just splurging at every opportunity, because there is going to come a time when you realize I'm a little bit low on cash, and if you want to continue living on your own and supporting yourself, you kind of need to start planning and thinking ahead, so that way you can be more prepared for when you do get a job, or when you do need to relocate, or when you do need to get a new apartment, because that deposit life is real on the apartments. Okay, so start to cut back wherever you can. And finally, my last tip would just be to try and not get yourself in this phase of a graduation blues, so to speak, where you're just comparing yourself to everyone. Be aware that some people will get jobs before you. We don't know the situation. We don't know if they accepted a different type of job outside of their field. We don't know if they applied to a specific company that's looking for something that they specifically have. So don't get discouraged if someone else got a job and you may find that you're still applying, but maybe you don't have a job right now. Try to find other things to preoccupy your time, because this is the time in your life when you're going to have the most time to devote to you and your hobbies, your passion, your traveling. Use the time wisely, because like I said, once it's gone, it's gone. When you start working every day, 9 to 5, it becomes your life. So utilize the time, find your passion, find your hobbies, find things that you're interested in that you always wanted to explore but didn't have the time to explore. Exercise, join a gym, do all these different things. It won't go to waste. I promise you, these memories will last forever. So that wraps up all the tips that I have off the top of my head. Be sure to share with me in the comments some of the tips that you have found as a new graduate, or if you're no longer a new graduate, so to speak, share with us at that time in your life how that went and some of the tips that you use to help you move forward and not fall into this anxiety and, what's happening next? What do I do next type of phase? And until next week, guys, bye.